Hello and welcome to Module 3. Can you believe it? You're already halfway done with the social media bootcamp. Again, I'm Jocelyn, your instructor for all 5 modules. So I'm so excited to have you here on the halfway mark. So today we're going to focus on engagement and building a community that is more than just followers. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into it. What is engagement? How do we calculate it? How do we measure it? So, one of the ways I want us to look at this is that your follower count really doesn't represent if you have a highly engaged audience. You could have 10,000 followers and get 20 likes per post, or you could have 500 followers and get 100 likes, 30 comments, and 3 shares. So which one sounds like a more engaged audience to you? Now, I also want us to focus in on not only creating and growing our impact. So we do obviously want to grow our audience, but we want to grow them intentionally and create a community, and a community that is engaged. That could be fans, but we're going to speak to our fans in a way to convert them to potential buyers or audience members that are going to help support the growth of our business. So, engagement tells the algorithm and potential clients that your content resonates with them. So, in our first 2 modules, we not only built our foundation, built the core strategy of what are we going to be sharing, what are our core beliefs, what's our mission overall, and then we started creating that content that relates, that really speaks to that ideal client. And now we're going to put it to the test and see if our audience engages with it. What does engagement help with? Well, ultimately, it helps with our conversions. So it tells us, what do our clients like? What do they want to know more of? And what's ultimately leading them on that buying path? So, what I like to do is I like to set a 15-minute daily engagement routine. So, before we dive into this and what does that routine look like, I want us to go ahead and open up our workbook. So, if you haven't already, please go ahead and download that so that we can start working in it. So, we're going to focus in on engagement evolution. So, before we dive into what does that even mean, let's reflect. What does engagement mean to you? So, let's take about 1 to 2 minutes here and jot down our thoughts on what engagement means to you. How do we define it? And have you seen engagement strategies change over time? So let's go ahead and take 2 minutes, and then we'll come back and start to dive into what this really means. All right, let's go ahead and wrap that up. So, as I mentioned before, really designing a 15-minute daily engagement routine. So, what does that look like? So, we're going to spend 1 to 5 minutes responding to every comment on your recent posts, and really respond. Don't just like it, not just a thanks. Really engage with them. Let them know they have been seen, they're being heard, and potentially ask a follow up question. Keep that conversation going. Then spend 6 to 10 minutes engaging with 10 to 15 accounts in your niche or ideal client base. So, what does that mean? That means you're going to search on whichever platform you happen to be on at that time. And again, you're going to do this 15-minute strategy on all platforms individually. But you're going to search accounts that fit your ideal profile. So I'm going to search business coaches and see what comes up. And then I'm going to take a look and see, okay, do they fit my ideal client categories and specifics that I've outlined? And then I'm going to go and comment, engage with their most recent post, maybe send them a direct message. Get that conversation going because as you start to interact with them and you're showing up more regularly and consistently, then they're going to start to interact with you. And that's where we get that cross pollination. So then you're going to do that for 6 to 10 minutes. Then for minutes 11 to 15. Okay, so for minutes 1 to 5, you're going to respond to every comment. For minutes 6 to 10, you're going to engage with 10 to 15 accounts. And then for minutes 11 to 15, just to clarify, because we're doing this into 15-minute segments, check your DMs and respond to any messages that have come through and follow up with them to keep those conversations going. And there you go, 15 minutes a day. What I recommend is pick one platform per day that you do this engagement on. If you're feeling a little frisky, risky, pick 2 platforms a day and do 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the afternoon. That way, you're engaging with every platform throughout the week so that nothing's getting left behind to fall through the cracks and you're not missing any potential leads. Once you continue to do this, this will start to become a routine and you can start to track that measurable data to really see what's converting from your efforts. Now, how do we turn our followers into a community versus just those fans? One, ask questions in your captions, in your visuals, in your stories. Get the people talking because ultimately they're going to tell you exactly what they want and what they don't want. Sometimes what they don't want might be a little bit louder, but please take that more as data that you can calculate versus a representation or assessment of your content. Because your content may be high quality, but their feedback may show you maybe that's not the format they want to receive that content, or they're not your ideal clients. So no matter what, that feedback's always going to tell you specific data that helps you know how to engage or not engage with that particular person. Share behind the scenes. Let people into your real life. Now, again, you don't have to give them all of the nooks and crannies of your life, your story, your trauma, your highs, your lows, but just give them a little bit of insight into who you are so that they have something they can kind of attach to and resonate and feel like, hey, I've had that and relate it back to their life in a way. So if she can do it, I can do it, if that makes sense. Celebrate your people. Celebrate the wins, not only of your clients, but those in your community that are engaging, that are commenting, that are sharing. Celebrate them. Welcome them. If you're getting new followers, highlight them so that they can see you notice them and you appreciate their efforts for being there. Create insider moments. Use your stories, close friends, or even private groups to really make your community feel special. There's a lot of platforms out there that allow you to create community groups specifically. So it's a feature within the social media platform that kind of funnels them into a more intimate setting versus just kind of the broad general platform. Um, Platforms like this would be Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. They allow you to have a little bit more of that kind of intimate relationship with your audience. All right. The question I always get, how do I handle negative comments and trolls? Sometimes these comments can get to you. What I will recommend is taking them with a grain of salt. Look at them objectively of what can I learn? What is the data I can pull from these comments. And sometimes it's as simply as that is not an ideal client for me. I need to remove them from the community. And so you'll use tools on the platforms to be able to remove them. So you can block them and remove their comments. Other times you can look at it and look at it as constructive criticism of, okay, what can I shift? How can I build upon this to make it more impactful? And look at that data. Address the elephant in the room. That's sometimes the hardest thing to do, but it's going to be the most impactful in the long run for you. Also, just don't engage with some of them. If they're really outlandish, definitely hide or remove them, block them. Um, your energy is way too valuable to be spending time dealing with people or accounts that just want to spread negativity. Always be a light in the dark room if you can. Also, just be aware of controversial topics. I always like to have things that kind of push against the grain a little bit, but never really cross the line into any way that it may cause harm um, toward anyone in my audience, if that makes sense. But do stay firm to your values, your core values, absolutely. Also, a fun fact, algorithms actually like a bit of controversy. So it gives the algorithm kind of that red flag, white flag. Hey, someone's engaging. There's a lot of conversation happening around this content, and it ends up actually getting pushed out to more people. Um, so it's toe that line of what's crossing the line for you that needs to be removed, and what are those that open up dialogue that you can have more conversation around. All right, so now let's go back to our workbook. We're going to dive into what I call the R formula. So, what is R? Authenticity, relevance, and engagement. All right. So, be genuine, true to who you are. I mentioned this in yesterday's training that it's exhausting being anything but yourself. So just be true to who you are, because that's truly what people are going to engage with. And it's far more intentional and impactful for your ideal audience because ultimately you don't want to give, in a sense, that multiple personality of they don't know what they're going to get. It creates that confusion. Um, if they were to work with you, they may get this version versus that version. So definitely just be as true as you can to who you are, and mindful of who you want to speak with, and be comfortable in your skin. Because that really does come across and show well through your marketing efforts. So be relevant. Provide content that your audience is searching for, hungry for. You can also look at what do they need because sometimes they may not be looking for it, but you know they need it. So what content does that look like? Also, take a look at the trends. What's happening throughout the platform, maybe in your industry that you see people really taking a hold of, and see how you can put your spin on it, your philosophy on it, so that you are sharing similar content, but in your way that's authentic to you. So, how can you implement the R formula into your current marketing strategy? Well, I want us to take a couple minutes here. Let's take 2 minutes. And I want you to just jot down some ideas. Again, they don't need to be fully fleshed out. Are what are core things about you that as soon as someone experiences you, they say, Jill is this, Joe is this. So that falls into our authenticity side. Then write down what are some things that are relevant. that you already know of, that you've seen, that you've heard, that you've even engaged with. Because if you want it, it's wanted. And then, how do I want people to engage with this? How can I encourage interaction and participation through the content? So let's go ahead and take 2 minutes and jot down a few things for each of those categories, and then we're going to apply them. All right, perfect. So now we're going to go into our next section of our workbook, and it's our psychology of connection. So I want us to jot down a few thoughts here under these prompts. Is what are the core values of your ideal client or target audience? And how can you demonstrate that you understand exactly what their needs are? So remember, in module one, we went through what your core beliefs are. Now we're going to look at it from our ideal client's perspective. What are their core beliefs? What are their wants, their needs that they're looking for? And again, this builds upon those client avatars that we also started working on in module one of what does that ideal client look like? How are they operating? How are they engaging? What are their patterns? So let's go ahead and take about 5 minutes here and complete these two prompts inside your workbook. All right, perfect. Let's go ahead and wrap that up with our final thoughts. So we are now going to go ahead and shift into how we can use our stories and DMs to deepen our connection with our ideal audience. So, if your feed is your storefront, think of it this way, then your stories are your coffee shop. So, the feed is going to be the long lasting, they can come back to it over and over and over, where your story content is going to be kind of that limited time hit. All right. So, in your stories, share what you're working on in real time. It gives that direct insight pull into what you're up to. Ask questions and pull your audience. How do can you show your personality in your daily life? One of the things I love to do is I'll share I always say my dogs are always sleeping on the job. They're my coworkers that are always sleeping on the job because that's become kind of a staple in my business life is I'll be in meetings and my dogs will pop up on the bed behind me in my office, or they'll be barking or climb up into my lap. So my audience has now gotten used to my dogs being a regular fixture inside a lot of my marketing efforts. So they're in videos of mine, they're, inspiration for some of the content, various things. So share your personality and your daily life with them. Drive people to your feed. I have a new post up. Did you see this to get your free resource? Look at my client relationships. So these are all things to drive that engagement because one of the things with stories is they're only up for 24 hours. So again, that limited time run, we are able to create that urgency in there. So how can we continue to elevate and leverage that? Next, our DMs. So this is a great way to continue to build on a relationship after that initial engagement with them, whether they had commented on a post of yours that you did, or if they reached out to you directly, you can continue that follow up. But you'll see inside of your workbook, I have provided some DM scripts that allow you to continue that engagement and also just get a little bit more in depth in conversation with your ideal audience. So in there, you'll see kind of just a general welcome. You'll also see if someone's liked or engaged with some of your content, how to interact with them. You'll see cold reach outs available in there. So I really wanted you to be able to have some examples to workshop with as well. So that's where we're going to dive into now. So if you can return back to your workbook, I want you to go ahead and we're going to start to draft your examples. So take a look at the templates, and I want you to start formulating what your version of each of these will be. And so you'll see that through option of welcoming a new follower. What's that second option? That way it gives a variety, and you kind of create that consistency in your brand messaging as well. So let's take about 10 minutes and work through this. And again, I'll have you continue building on this through your homework tonight, but let's go ahead and take 10 minutes right now to start jotting some of our first thoughts into this category. All right, perfect. Let's wrap up with our just final thoughts there. So that is going to conclude our module 3 for today. So you will see a few other categories inside your workbook. I do want you to kind of work through these during your homework sessions after today. Um, One of them is collaboration networking. So this is just a brainstorming idea of who could you collaborate with either in your industry or supporting industries that would help with your ideal client. Who can you network with and list those there? And then also diving into your group management system. So as we talked about earlier in today's session, there are social platforms out there that allow you to have more of an intimate setting with your community by creating private groups and things like that that allow you to have a little bit more targeted engagement to those that are seeking that. So we'll dive through that. Lastly, you did receive in module 1 the download for your lead generation and engagement tracker. So on that, you will see an example, which we'll dive into a little bit more tomorrow, in our growth setting, on how to really leverage that and pull the data that you need to formulate your strategy moving forward after this initial strategy plan. Alrighty, so I will see you in module 4, and let us know again if you have any questions on any of the homework or throughout the modules. We are here to help. Have a great day.